Hello guys, welcome back to African Stories with Nsa. Hope you are all doing well. Today's story is titled One Chance. Have you ever heard of the term one chance? Have you ever been a victim? If you haven't, then let me tell you all about it. In most Nigerian cities, it is an organized crime perpetrated by people who work together by scamming people when they ride with them in their vehicles. They use different means like threats, coercion, or even casting spells on their victims to rob them of their possessions and money. In today's story, we'll be talking about Ada, who had this experience. But before we continue, if you're new to this channel, please do well to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you can be notified each time I post a new video. Now let's get right into the story. On this bright and beautiful Monday morning, Ada had gotten up early and got ready for work. She had a lot to do that day, but first she needed to go to the bank to deposit some money for her boss. She should have done that on Friday when she closed early from work, but there was a long queue and she didn't feel too well, so she took the money home and made a mental note to deposit the money first thing on Monday morning. She walked to the bus stop, which was just 2 streets from her house, and waited. There were taxis that carried people who were going to the same destination, so she did not need to hire a private taxi, as there were a ton of taxis that went her route. On this day, however, it took a while for her to find a taxi that was going her way, and she was becoming very impatient. She did not want to be late to work. Almost immediately, a car stopped in front of her. At first, she thought the driver of the car had stopped to ask for directions, as the car did not look like the regular taxis. But then she heard the driver ask, "Madam, where you dey go?" Through the window, she could see 2 people seated at the back, a man and a woman. And on the passenger seat in front was an elderly-looking man who appeared to be in his 60s. "I dey go Lion Gate Bank for Business District," she replied. "Okay, enter for back," the driver said. Ada got in and sat beside the man and the lady, and the driver zoomed off. The lady beside her smiled at her, and she smiled back. "Sister, you really look nice, so I like your suits." "Oh, really? Thank you," Ada replied. The driver also concurred. "Ah, sister, you get good eye." "Madam, you fine well," he said to Ada, smiling at her through the interior rear view mirror. "Thank you," she said again. She had not done anything special that morning, so she wondered where all the compliments were coming from. If anything, she was wearing a basic cheap suit she had bought years ago from the market, and she had not even applied any makeup that morning, as she was in a hurry. Well, maybe she still looked good regardless. About 2 minutes into the journey, the driver started a conversation with the man seated at the other end. He had been quiet all along and looked lost in thoughts. "My brother, that Ghana must go wey you put for my boots. Na wetin dey inside?" "Driver, abeg no vex. Na dollars dey inside o." He sounded scared. "Ah, that big bags na dollar full am? Where you take am from?" The man explained that he had stolen it from his boss, who had refused to settle him after he had served him for 7 years. "So na thief you be? I'm taking you straight to the station." The elderly man seated next to the driver began to plead on behalf of the man who owned the bag of dollars. "Driver, abeg, have mercy on him. You know say him oga no too try sef. Why will somebody serve him for 7 years and he no gree pay am off?" "Well, oga, na true you talk. So what can we do now? The driver asked. If these two aunties fit cooperate with us, all of us will share the money. No need to include police because dem sef fit collect the whole money for themselves. The elderly man continued. The lady seated beside Ada immediately agreed. No be bad idea we go cooperate as long as you give us our share. She turned to Ada. Sister, no be so. Ada shook her head immediately. No, I don't want any money. I just want to get to my destination, please. Immediately she said that, Ada was no longer in control of her senses. It felt like she was being hypnotized. Everything that happened after that was a blow. Ada found herself agreeing with everything they asked her against her will. She knew she wasn't supposed to, but she was no longer in control of herself. They asked her about the contents of her bag, and she told them she had a large sum of money in her bag that she needed to deposit in the bank. The lady beside her collected the bundles of money from her, as well as her mobile phone, and passed it to the man next to her, who dumped the money in a bag he was holding. The driver asked her how many bank accounts she had, and she told them she had 2. He asked if she had the ATM card for both accounts, and she responded in the affirmative. They drove to the nearest ATM machine, and the lady went with her to withdraw all the money she had in her 2 accounts. When they got back to the car, the lady collected her handbag and took out all the money she had withdrawn, as well as the loose cash she had in her wallet. At this point, they were driving very fast and headed towards the outskirts of the city. Ada wanted to protest, but she just couldn't. She knew that she shouldn't have given them the money, but she did, against her will. She knew she shouldn't have given them her life savings, but she did. She knew she should be going to work on a Monday morning instead of the direction they were headed, which was miles away from her office, but she could not say a word. She knew deep down in her guts that something was wrong, that the people in the taxi with her were a criminal gang, but try as she may, Ada could not get herself to say or do anything. They eventually arrived at a deserted road, and the driver asked Ada to get down. She obeyed him without knowing where she was or what she was going to do there. They thanked Ada for being very helpful and cooperating with them, and then they zoomed off. Ada stood in the middle of the road for a few minutes, feeling lost, and then suddenly it felt like something had left her body, and then she realized the implication of all that had happened. Hot tears ran down her face. What was she going to do? Her boss's money was gone. Her life savings were gone. She sat on the floor feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. She looked around her. There was nothing but bushes. There were no houses or people around. The tarred road was farther down the path. She started to walk towards it, hoping she would see someone to talk to. At the junction, there were some motorbike riders waiting to pick passengers. She approached one of them. "Excuse me, please. Good morning." "Morning," he replied, looking at her with interest. "Please, I don't know where I am. I was robbed and left here by some criminals." How?" the motorbike rider asked. "I boarded a taxi with other passengers, and immediately I got in and started having a conversation with the driver. I no longer knew what I was doing. They've taken all the money I have." Madam, you enter one chance." "All the money I have is gone. I don't know what to do." She began to cry all over again. The other motorbike riders drew closer as they heard her cry, and their colleague told them what had happened. "Madam, sorry. Those people are very bad people. It no go better for them." one of them said, trying to console her. Where you they live? Another asked. I live in Harbour Village, but I work in the business district, and I need to go there immediately, she said in between tears. Don't worry, madam. I can carry you to the main road. Then from there we go put you for taxi wey go carry you go business district. Don't worry, I go pay. She was able to get to the office with the help of the kind-hearted motorbike rider, but was left to face the consequences of her encounter with the one-chance robbers. In the office, she narrated her ordeal to her boss, who sympathized with her, but because it was a large sum of money and it belonged to the company, she was asked to pay back over a period of time. And that is the end of the story. Have you ever been a victim of one chance? If you have, let's hear your story in the comment section. If you haven't, I hope you don't, as it's a very unpleasant experience. Until I come your way again next time, please do well to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and click on the notification bell to be notified each time I post another video. Bye.